The void between stars was never meant to be breached so violently. Brother Sergeant Titus of the Ultramarines felt the blade of Macragge shudder as reality tore apart, the warp convulsing with unnatural fury. His strike cruiser had been pursuing a Tyranid splinter fleet when the anomaly manifested a dimensional rift pulsing with impossible colors. "Geller field collapse imminent," the ship's master shouted. "Unknown spatial phenomenon we cannot avoid." Titus gripped his command throne as the vessel plunged into the impossible. For a span that could have been a heartbeat or eternity, he experienced absolute disconnection from the Emperor's light. The Astronomicon vanished. In its place pressed something vast, an energy field connecting billions of souls in a web singing with light and darkness. The blade of Macragge exploded back into real space with a crack that shattered viewports. Damage report. Hull integrity 60%. Main propulsion offline. Warp drive destroyed. "We're stranded, Captain." Titus turned to the viewport. Before them hung a city world of impossible scale, an entire planet encased in urban sprawl, glittering with billions of lights. Near the northern hemisphere, smoke billowed from a massive temple complex. Weapons fire, organized military forces converging, a slaughter underway, multiple weapons locks, 64 vessels approaching, were being hailed. A stern voice crackled. "Unknown vessel, identify immediately or be destroyed." Titus made his decision. The Codex taught that Space Marines protect the innocent. "This is Brother Sergeant Titus of the Ultramarines, 2nd Company, loyal servants of the God Emperor of mankind. We claim right of sanctuary. We've witnessed the massacre below and demand explanation." A new voice emerged, older, calculating. "Ultramarines. Emperor. How interesting. I am Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. The massacre is execution of traitors Jedi insurrectionists who attempted assassination. Land at Senate Platform 327. We have much to discuss." Titus heard the lie. He'd interrogated traitors across 100 battlefields. Acknowledged. Preparing for entry. He turned to his squad. "Brothers, full combat load. We're walking into a purge." 9 Ultramarines moved with practiced efficiency, each 8 feet of ceramite-encased super soldier. They'd faced orcs, Tyranids, Chaos Marines. Whatever awaited them, they would face it with faith, discipline, and overwhelming firepower. The blade of Macragge descended. Titus watched the temple burn, heard screams and systematic execution. The Codex was clear. In absence of orders, do what the Emperor would will. Landing Platform 327 appeared surrounded by towers and military emplacements. 20 soldiers in white armor, crimson-robed guards, an elderly man in state robes. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. "Brothers, watch everything. Trust nothing," Titus said over Squad Vox. The assault ramp lowered. Titus led his squad onto Coruscant, each bootfall thundering, cobalt blue power armor gleaming, the Ultima symbol proud across breastplates. The welcoming committee recoiled. Palpatine approached, eyes gleaming. Magnificent. Titus's autosenses painted tactical overlays, hundreds of life signs, armed teams in adjacent buildings, and something else. Pervasive energy emanating from every living being, connecting them impossibly. "You spoke of traitors. Explain why warriors executed a religious order in their temple." Palpatine's expression shifted to practiced sorrow. "The Jedi served for 1,000 generations, but they turned on us. Their council attempted assassination. I activated Order 66 immediate termination for high treason." Brother Severus shifted stance, a warning. He'd fought alongside those who remembered the Horus heresy. He recognized purges justified by lies. A repulsor engine screamed overhead. A Republic gunship crashed onto the platform's edge, battle-damaged and smoking. A Togruta female stumbled out, scorched robes, useless arm, blue energy blade igniting. Behind her, 3 children huddled in terror. Clone troopers appeared, weapons raised. "Stand down," Palpatine commanded. He turned to Titus with calculated sympathy. "You see, they flee justice, using innocence as shields. This is Commander Ahsoka Tano, war criminal. The children are indoctrinated cult members." Titus watched coldly. The Togruta stance, defensive. The younglings, genuine terror. The clones, mechanical precision without mercy. The codex was clear. Trust battlefield observation over political rhetoric. "Chancellor Palpatine," Titus declared, voice carrying like judgment. "We decline participation. Stand down, or continued hostility will be interpreted as aggression against our position." Temperature dropped. Clone weapons swiveled toward Ultramarines, targeting lasers painting ceramite crimson. "You shelter traitors?" Palpatine's voice went soft, dangerous. "Make yourself enemies over fanatics and children. We shelter those who cannot defend themselves. It is our purpose. We don't abandon it because executioners wear legitimacy's mask." Palpatine clearly calculated. Even killing these warriors would cost catastrophically. He smiled, Predator deferring a meal. "Very well. I'll withdraw and allow you to hear her lies. When you realize truth, you'll choose correctly." He gestured. Clones lowered weapons. "We'll speak again, Brother Sergeant. Choose allies carefully." He departed in a diplomatic speeder. Ahsoka deactivated her blade, exhaustion evident. "I don't know what you are, but thank you. Those children are all that's left. The clones killed everyone." Titus removed his helmet, scarred face, 1 bionic eye, 2 centuries of warfare etched in features. "I am Brother Sergeant Titus of the Ultramarines. We don't yet understand your conflict, but we recognize purges. You're safe for now. But understand we're not allies. We simply refuse to participate in slaughtering children." Alerts erupted, multiple contacts approaching, capital warships maneuvering, and from the burning temple, a new signature blazing with dark energy like Palpatine's, but wilder, more chaotic, recently corrupted. A dark figure emerged. Black armor, flowing cape, crimson blade igniting. He turned toward the platform as if sensing them across kilometers. Ahsoka's breath caught. "No, Anakin." The figure raised his blade, acknowledgement or challenge, then vanished into smoke. Titus replaced his helmet. "Brothers, secure the ship. Our conversation with this republic has just begun. If you want to see more epic crossovers and characters entering the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button right now and drop your dream character matchup in the comments below. May the Force be with you, and remember the Emperor protects. The blade of Macragge's Medicae Bay had been designed for Space Marines warriors whose enhanced physiology survived wounds that would kill baseline humans 10 times over. Watching Ahsoka Tano collapse onto the surgical table, Brother Apothecary Lysander worked with practiced efficiency. 3 broken ribs, severe energy burns, fractured ulna, extensive soft tissue damage, Lysander reported clinically. She pushed beyond what her body could endure. Another hour without treatment would have been fatal. The 3 younglings huddled in the corner, watched over by Brother Decimus. The children were silent, eyes wide with trauma Titus recognized from countless battlefields. They'd watched their world burn, seen guardians murdered, fled into the arms of armored giants from beyond stars. "Will she live?" The eldest youngling asked a human boy, perhaps 10 years old, desperately trying to be brave. "She'll live," Lysander confirmed, injecting a modified stimulant his medical cogitators calculated would work with Togruta physiology. Remarkably resilient, she'll regain consciousness within the hour. Titus moved to the strategium where Brother Gaius had established command. Hololithic displays flickered with information from passive scans of Coruscant's networks. The picture painted was systematic, galaxy-spanning genocide. "Captain, I've intercepted thousands of transmissions," Gaius reported. Order 66 executed simultaneously across every Republic military unit in every system. Clone armies turned on Jedi commanders without hesitation. Casualty estimates suggest fewer than 1% survived the initial purge. 1%, Titus repeated flatly. He'd witnessed genocides. The Imperium wasn't gentle with Xenos threats, but this was surgical, precise. Mass murder requiring years of planning. Brother Severus stood before another display, analyzing tactical footage from planetary security networks. Jedi Temple, main entrance, 4 hours ago. Watch. The footage showed clone troopers marching up temple steps in perfect formation. At their head walked a tall figure in black robes and armor, face twisted with rage and something darker. His crimson blade moved with inhuman speed, deflecting blaster bolts and severing limbs with brutal efficiency. Anakin Skywalker, Severus identified. Former Jedi Knight, considered one of their most powerful warriors. Palpatine renamed him Darth Vader and elevated him to command the Imperial Inquisitorius dedicated to hunting surviving Jedi. Fallen to corruption, Titus observed. A warrior of principle turned to darkness, justifying atrocity with twisted philosophy. Except these clones didn't choose corruption, Gaius interjected, pulling up scans of clone armor components. Biochips embedded in every clone's brain, connected to neural pathways. Order 66 overrode their personalities, memories, bonds. They became organic servitors, programmed for extermination. Cold fury settled in Titus's chest, turning warriors into puppets, stealing their capacity for choice violation of the highest order. So, Palpatine planned this from the beginning, Titus concluded. Created a loyal army, embedded kill switches, positioned Jedi as commanders, then activated the trap. Efficient, ruthless, utterly without honor. "Which brings us to our situation," Severus said grimly. "We're stranded on the capital world of a government that just executed a coup. We've openly defied the new Emperor, yes. Intercepted transmissions confirm. Palpatine declared himself Emperor, and we're sheltering fugitives. He's declared enemies of state. Our vessel is crippled, warp drive destroyed. No way to contact the Imperium. Options: surrender the Jedi, beg forgiveness, hope Palpatine values our potential service," Gaius offered without enthusiasm. "Tactically sound but morally repugnant," Severus countered. "We could attempt repair and flee, but without warp drive, sublight speeds would take centuries to reach another system. Or we fight," Brother Decimus rumbled from the Medicae Bay entrance, younglings behind his massive frame. "We are Ultramarines. We don't abandon those under our protection, and we don't bow to tyrants." Titus studied his brother's warriors he'd fought beside for decades, loyalty proven in blood across 100 worlds. The Codex taught that Space Marines served the Imperium, not personal conscience. But Robute Guilliman had also written that when corruption infected the highest levels, when innocent blood was shed by lawful authority, then a Space Marine's duty was to the Emperor's true will, not political convenience. "We fight," Titus decided, "not for the Jedi, not for this Republic, but because the Codex demands we stand between innocent and executioner, regardless of cost." An alarm shrieked. Gaius's hands flew across his console. Multiple contacts approaching. LAAT gunships, 12 strong, supported by ARC-170 starfighters, broadcasting Imperial authority codes, demanding immediate surrender. Time to weapons range. 3 minutes. Titus activated Helmet Vox, broadcasting to every Ultramarine aboard. "All brothers, combat stations. Load bolters, prepare defensive positions. They want a fight, we'll give them one. They'll remember for generations." "Captain," Ahsoka's weak voice called. Titus turned to find her sitting upright despite Lysander's protests, orange skin pale but eyes burning with desperate determination. "You can't fight the Empire. Palpatine is a Sith Lord Master of the dark side. He's manipulated this galaxy for decades, and Vader was the chosen one. If he's fallen, if he's leading the Purge..." She shook her head. "You don't know the Force. You can't defend against it." "We've faced Psychers before," Titus replied calmly. "Some more powerful than your Sith Lord. We're still here." "The Force isn't just telekinesis," Ahsoka insisted, struggling to her feet. "True Sith channel the dark side like a weapon, lightning burning through armor, choking collapsing lungs across battlefields, visions driving warriors mad. And Vader, I knew him, trained with him. He was the best of us. Now he's become something worse than any enemy we faced." Titus considered this, cross-referencing with Imperial records of chaos sorcerers. If Palpatine was equivalent to a greater daemon and Vader his champion, the Ultramarines faced opposition beyond normal parameters. 9 Space Marines would struggle against such foes, but they'd faced impossible odds before, on Macragge against Tyranids, on Damnos against Necrons. Victory seemed impossible until they seized it through faith, discipline, and precisely calibrated violence. "Then we adapt," Titus said simply. "Brother Gaius, activate remaining defense batteries. Target lead gunship. Severus, secure the hangar with 3 brothers. Decimius, protect the younglings. Maximus, with me, to upper gun deck." Ultramarines moved with fluid efficiency. Within 90 seconds, every position manned, every weapon loaded, every battle brother ready. The blade of Macragge might be crippled, but it was still an Imperial strike cruiser whose weapons could level city blocks. Gunships appeared on display's sleek wedge-shaped craft, bristling with turrets. Professional military formation, elite clone army units that fought across a galactic war. "Unknown vessel. This is Commander Apo of the 501st Legion," a voice crackled. "You harbor enemies of the Empire. Surrender the Jedi, or be destroyed." 30 seconds to comply. Titus walked to the main viewport, ceramite boots ringing. Behind him, Brother Maximus manned a twin-linked turret, targeting cogitators calculating firing solutions. Through the viewport, Coruscant sprawled endlessly, the burning temple visible, approaching gunships growing larger. "Commander Apo," Titus replied with absolute authority. "I am Brother Sergeant Titus of the Ultramarines, 2nd Company. We are warriors who've defended humanity across 10,000 years. We don't surrender. We don't yield to threats. We don't execute children because tyrants command it. If you want these refugees, you go through us. I promise that won't be as easy as you imagine." Silence, confusion radiating from the clone commander. These soldiers had fought droids and separatist rebels, enemies either mechanical or opposing lawful government. Warriors claiming moral superiority while defying direct orders didn't fit tactical databases. "So be it," Apo finally replied, tone hardening. "All units, weapons free. Disable that ship. Prepare boarding parties. Lord Vader wants the Jedi alive. Everyone else is expendable." The gunships opened fire. Las cannons and missile pods erupted in synchronized fury, painting the air with energy beams and ballistic contrails. The blade of Macragge's void shields, designed for vacuum combat, struggled in atmosphere, flickering as coherent energy slammed into them. "Return fire," Titus commanded calmly. "Precision shots. Disable, don't destroy. These are soldiers following orders, not our true enemy." Brother Maximus's targeting cogitators locked onto the lead gunship with predatory precision. The defensive turret rotated with hydraulic smoothness, twin barrels aligning on the gunship's starboard engine. The universe held its breath. Then the turret fired. The sound was apocalyptic, a thunderclap of explosive propellant and supersonic metal that shook the entire ship. The mass-reactive bolt crossed the distance in microseconds, its machine spirit guiding it with vicious accuracy. It struck the engine, cowling, and detonated with frag grenade force, shredding the repulsor generator and sending the gunship into uncontrolled spin. "Direct hit," Maximus reported with satisfaction. "Engine destroyed. Minimal casualties. Craft withdrawing." The remaining 11 gunships scattered, formation breaking as clone pilots realized they faced weapons beyond their tactical experience. Energy shields could be overwhelmed, armor penetrated, but mass-reactive bolts exploding inside targets. Something new, something terrifying. "Reform and concentrate fire on shield generators," Apo commanded, professional frustration bleeding through. "All fighters, suppression pattern Omega." Arc 170 seconds dove in, laser cannons stitching coherent energy across the blade of Macraga's hull. Void shields held, but warning klaxons wailed as power reserves depleted. Gunships regrouped, launching coordinated missile barrages that forced every defensive turret into target saturation protocols. Titus watched the tactical display with cold assessment. The clones were good, disciplined, coordinated, adaptive, but they were baseline humans in atmospheric craft, fighting a void-capable warship crewed by genetically enhanced super soldiers. The outcome was never in doubt. Only the body count remained variable. "Maximus, target flanking gunship. Fire when ready." Another thunderclap. Another gunship spinning away with destroyed engine. Clone forces began withdrawing. Tactical assessment finally accepting they couldn't win without orbital bombardment or heavier firepower. But as the last gunship retreated, Titus's threat recognition systems screamed warnings. A single contact approaching at impossible velocity, moving with fluid grace far beyond normal piloting. His enhanced vision picked out details: a modified Eta 2 Actis interceptor, black and crimson, diving toward the blade of Macrag like a predator on wounded prey. "Captain," Gaius reported, voice tight with alarm. "That interceptor's pilot broadcasts a force signature matching our earlier readings of Darth Vader," Titus finished, watching the dark ship grow larger. "Palpatine sent his champion. Let's see if this fallen Jedi is as dangerous as reputation suggests." The interceptor didn't slow. It simply crashed through the hangar bay doors with tortured metal screams, shearing through void shields via sheer momentum and force-assisted precision. Alarms shrieked as atmosphere vented, emergency bulkheads slamming shut to contain the breach. Brother Severus's voice crackled across Vox, tight with combat readiness. "Captain, intruder in hangar. He's cutting through our position like we're not here. 3 brothers down, armor compromised by energy blades. And Captain, he's not using weapons. He's using his mind. Crates flying, bulkheads crushing, the air itself becoming weapon." Titus was already moving, ceramite boots thundering as he sprinted toward the hangar. "All brothers, concentrate fire. Do not engage melee. Maximus, Decimus, protect the younglings at all costs. Lysander, seal Medicae, and prepare for casualties." He burst into the corridor to find carnage. Brother Caius lay against a bulkhead, ceramite chestplate cracked by tremendous impact, secondary heart working overtime. Brother Tiberius clutched a severed arm, synth skin and blood leaking from catastrophic wounds. And in the bay's center, surrounded by floating debris and sparking equipment, stood Darth Vader, taller than expected, nearly 7 feet of black armor and flowing cape, face concealed behind glossy mask, hissing with rhythmic breathing. In his hand, a cylindrical hilt projected pure crimson energy, humming with barely contained violence. But his presence struck like physical force, weight of darkness and fury pressing against minds with crushing intensity. "You dare shelter her?" Vader's voice rumbled, distorted into something barely human. "You dare defy the Emperor's will. You are either supremely brave or utterly foolish. I shall enjoy discovering which." Titus leveled his bolt pistol, the weapon's machine spirit singing with eagerness. Around him, remaining Ultramarines formed firing line, bolters trained with absolute precision. "I am Brother Sergeant Titus of the Ultramarines," Titus declared, voice carrying 2 centuries of warfare. "We've faced Daemon princes and Chaos lords, stared into the warp and remained uncorrupted. You're powerful, Vader, but not invincible. Stand down, or learn that lesson the hard way." Vader stood motionless, respirator hissing mechanical rhythm. Then he raised his free hand, and Brother Severus's bolter tore from his grip, flying across the hangar to slam into Bulkhead with crushing force. "You know nothing of power," Vader said softly, making the words more terrifying than threats. "Let me educate you." Titus didn't hesitate. "Fire." 9 bolters spoke as one, a symphony of explosive violence that would have shredded armored vehicles. Mass reactive rounds screamed through air, each guided by targeting cogitators calculating trajectory, velocity, impact point with inhuman precision. Vader's lightsaber became a crimson blur. The first bolt deflected with casual precision, detonating against the bulkhead. The second, the third. Vader moved with speed that defied physics, his blade intercepting each round microseconds before impact, the dark side flowing through him like a river of malevolent energy. But he couldn't deflect them all. The 4th bolt clipped his shoulder pauldron, detonating with a flash that sent armor fragments spinning. The 5th struck his thigh, staggering him. Blood, shockingly red and human, leaked from the wound. Vader was mortal. He could bleed. He could be hurt. "Concentrate fire on his position," Titus commanded, advancing with bolt pistol blazing. "Don't let him recover." But Vader thrust both hands forward, and the world exploded. An invisible fist of pure force energy slammed into the Ultramarines like a titan's blow. Titus felt himself lifted from deck plating, his 300-kilogram armored form hurled backward like a child's toy. He crashed into Brother Maximus, both warriors tumbling in a tangle of ceramite and sparking systems. The other Ultramarines fared no better, scattered like leaves before a hurricane. Vader advanced through the chaos, his lightsaber humming death's song. He reached Brother Caius first, the wounded Ultramarine, struggling to rise despite his cracked chest plate. The crimson blade descended with surgical precision, sliding between ceramite plates to pierce the power armor's vulnerable joint seals. Caius screamed a sound of pure agony that cut through Vox channels and echoed in every brother's helmet. "No!" Titus roared, forcing himself upright despite warning runes flashing across his helmet display. He charged, drawing his combat knife, a monomolecular edged blade that could carve through tank armor. Vader turned to face him, lightsaber raised in guard position. For a heartbeat, they stood frozen Space Marine and Sith Lord, warriors from different galaxies, bound by the universal language of violence. Then Titus struck with all the fury of Ultramar behind his blow. His knife descended in a killing arc calculated to bypass Vader's guard. But Vader simply wasn't there. The Sith Lord flowed like water, his movements predicting Titus's attack before it fully manifested. The lightsaber came around in a horizontal slash aimed at Titus's neck seals. Titus twisted, the blade missing by centimeters, its energy field scorching ceramite and leaving glowing trails across his armor. He reversed his grip, driving the combat knife upward toward Vader's abdomen. This time, the blade connected, punching through Vader's armor plating with a screech of tortured metal. Vader grunted, stumbling backward. But instead of retreating, he grabbed Titus's wrist with his free hand. Servos in Vader's cybernetic arm whined as they crushed down with force that made even ceramite gauntlets creak in protest. "Impressive," Vader acknowledged, his respirator hissing faster with pain or exertion. "You fight with honor, warrior. A shame you chose the wrong side." "The only shame," Titus growled, "is that you betrayed everything you once stood for." Vader's grip tightened, and Titus felt bones grinding together even through his armor's reinforcement. But before Vader could press his advantage, Brother Severus appeared behind the Sith Lord, having retrieved his bolter. At point-blank range, he fired a 3-round burst directly into Vader's back. The mass-reactive rounds detonated against Vader's armor with catastrophic force, shredding the cybernetic life support systems woven through his suit. Vader released Titus and whirled, lightsaber bisecting Severus's bolter before the Ultramarine could fire again. But the damage was done. Vader's respirator stuttered, emergency alerts visible on the damaged chest panel. Without his life support functioning properly, Vader was running on borrowed time. The Sith Lord assessed the tactical situation with the cold calculation of a warrior who'd survived countless battles. 9 Ultramarines, 7 still combat-capable despite injuries. A crippled but functional strike cruiser with active weapons batteries, and his own life support failing. Even for Darth Vader, the mathematics were unfavorable. "This isn't over," Vader promised, his voice crackling with interference from damaged Vox systems. He thrust his hand toward the hangar's ceiling, and the Force obeyed. Metal shrieked as structural supports tore free, bulkheads collapsing inward in an avalanche of debris that forced the Ultramarines to scatter or be crushed. When the dust cleared, Vader was gone, his damaged interceptor screaming away from the blade of Macragge on emergency thrusters, trailing sparks and atmosphere. Titus stood among the wreckage, breathing hard despite his enhanced biology. Brother Caius lay motionless, his gene seed already being extracted by Brother Lysander, the greatest honor and final duty an apothecary could perform. They'd driven off Vader, proven that even dark side champions could bleed, but they'd also learned a terrible truth. They were trapped on a world ruled by beings who wielded power beyond conventional warfare, hunted by an empire with infinite resources, protecting refugees that the galaxy's most powerful man wanted dead. The war for their survival had truly begun. The blade of Macragge's command deck hummed with emergency power as Brother Gaius worked frantically at damaged cogitators. Sparks cascaded from overhead conduits where Vader's force assault had torn through structural supports. The acrid smell of burning insulation mixed with the metallic tang of spilled machine oil. "Damage assessment," Titus demanded, removing his helmet. Blood trickled from a cut above his bionic eye where debris had struck during the fight. Hangar bay compromised, atmospheric seals holding at 60% integrity, Gaius reported grimly. Void shields down to 30% capacity. Main weapons batteries functional but ammunition depleted by 40%. And Captain, our power core is fluctuating. Vader's assault damaged primary conduits. We have maybe 12 hours before complete shutdown. 12 hours. Titus processed the tactical reality with brutal honesty. They'd wounded Vader, proven the Ultramarines could fight Force users and survive. But the cost was catastrophic. Brother Caius dead, his gene seed extracted for future implantation. Brothers Tiberius and Marcus critically wounded, their enhanced physiology the only thing keeping them alive. The ship crippled beyond field repair, and the entire Imperial military machine now aware that the mysterious warriors from beyond the stars could be hurt. "Captain, incoming transmission," Brother Decimus called from the communications station. "Imperial frequency. It's Palpatine. Put it through." The hololithic display flickered to life, projecting Palpatine's image in shimmering blue light. The Emperor he'd officially claimed that title now stood in what appeared to be the Senate chamber, crimson-robed guards flanking him like silent statues. "Brother Sergeant Titus," Palpatine said, his voice carrying mock disappointment. "You've caused quite the disturbance. My finest enforcer injured, clone casualties mounting, and the entire Coruscant defense grid on high alert, all for a handful of Jedi and their indoctrinated younglings. Was it worth it? Every child's life is worth defending, Titus replied flatly. Every innocent spared from your purge justifies whatever cost we pay. Palpatine's expression shifted, amusement flickering across aged features. Innocent. Such a fascinating word. Tell me, warrior from beyond the stars, in your Imperium, do you not execute those who threaten your Emperor? Do you not purge worlds that harbor heretics and traitors? I've been listening to your ship's transmissions, learning your language, studying your culture. Your Imperium is built on mountains of corpses, justified by necessity and faith. Titus felt cold recognition settle in his gut. Palpatine wasn't wrong. The Imperium had committed genocides that made Order 66 look restrained. Entire Xeno species exterminated. Human populations virus-bombed for harboring chaos cults. The difference, Titus said slowly, is that we face genuine threats. Chaos, corruption that spreads like disease. Xenos that would devour humanity whole. The Jedi were your peacekeepers, your defenders. You manufactured their betrayal to justify seizing absolute power. Did I? Palpatine's smile widened. Or did I simply recognize what the Jedi had always been, an unaccountable religious order wielding immense power, answerable to no one, taking children from families to indoctrinate them into their philosophy? Tell me, Ultramarine, how is that different from your own recruitment practices? The parallel struck like a physical blow. Space Marine chapters did take children aspirants drawn from death worlds and hive cities, subjected to brutal trials and genetic modification that killed 9 out of 10 candidates. Those who survived became weapons of the Imperium, their former lives erased, their loyalty absolute. We serve, Titus replied, but even to his own ears the justification sounded hollow. We serve humanity's survival. As do I, Palpatine countered smoothly. The Republic was corrupt, inefficient, paralyzed by bureaucracy. It took me 2 decades to transform it into something capable of unity, strength, order. The Jedi stood in the way of that transformation, so I removed them, just as your Imperium would remove any obstacle to humanity's survival. He leaned forward, eyes glittering with dark intelligence. We're not so different, you and I. We both understand that power must sometimes be wielded ruthlessly for the greater good. No, Titus said, his voice hardening. We're nothing alike. The Imperium's brutality is necessity born from 10,000 years of existential warfare. Your atrocity is ambition dressed in philosophy. You created this war, orchestrated this crisis, murdered those who trusted you all to feed your hunger for control. Palpatine's amusement evaporated, replaced by cold calculation. I see. Then you've made your choice. A shame. I'd hoped warriors of your caliber might be reasoned with, but if you insist on this path... He gestured off-screen. You should know that your vessel's power signature is quite distinctive. My technicians have been tracking you since arrival, and I've just authorized deployment of the 501st's full strength, supported by orbital bombardment platforms. You have 1 hour to surrender the Jedi, or I will reduce your ship and everyone aboard to ash. Consider carefully, Brother Sergeant. Is your pride worth their lives? The transmission cut. Titus stood motionless, mind racing through tactical scenarios. The blade of Macraj couldn't withstand orbital bombardment in its current state. They couldn't flee, the ship was planet-bound without functional main drives. They couldn't hide, Palpatine was right about their power signature being distinctive, and they couldn't fight their way through an entire legion plus orbital support. Captain, Ahsoka's voice called from the hangar entrance. She limped forward, Lysander's medical work having stabilized her injuries, but leaving her visibly weakened. The three younglings clustered behind her, wide-eyed and silent. "You need to surrender us. I won't let you all die for our sake." "Unacceptable," Titus replied immediately. "We don't abandon those under our protection." "Then you're fools," Ahsoka said, but her voice cracked with emotion. "Honorable fools who don't understand what you're facing. Palpatine won't negotiate. He won't show mercy. He'll kill every one of you and sleep soundly afterward. Please, we've already lost everything. Don't throw your lives away too." Titus studied the Togruta Jedi, this warrior who'd survived the galaxy-spanning purge, who'd fled with children she barely knew rather than save herself. He saw in her eyes the same desperate determination he'd witnessed in guard commanders on doomed worlds, ordering retreats they knew would cost their own lives. "Brother Severus," Titus said quietly, "your assessment of our tactical situation." Severus stepped forward, his armor still scorched from Vader's lightsaber. "Grim, Captain. We can't win conventionally. We need extraction from this world or reinforcement that isn't coming. The only viable option is..." He paused, clearly wrestling with the recommendation. "Negotiate terms. Offer to leave Coruscant peacefully if Palpatine allows us to depart with the Jedi. It's the only play that doesn't end in our annihilation." "He'll refuse," Ahsoka interjected. "Palpatine wants me dead, and those children in Imperial custody. He's offering you survival only if you comply completely." "Then we don't negotiate with Palpatine," Titus said, a plan crystallizing in his tactical cognition. "Brother Gaius, how extensive is Coruscant's underworld?" Gaius pulled up planetary data on the tactical display. 5,000 vertical levels below surface infrastructure, millions of kilometers of abandoned infrastructure, criminal territories, and ungoverned zones. It's a city beneath the city, essentially lawless. "Can we reach it?" "Not in the ship, but on foot." Gaius highlighted potential routes on the hololithic map. "There are industrial transit systems 30 kilometers from our position. If we move quickly, quietly, we could disappear into the underworld before orbital assets get targeting solutions." Titus nodded slowly. "Then we abandon the blade of Macragge. We take what we can carry, destroy what we can't, and vanish into Coruscant's depths. The Codex teaches, when conventional warfare fails, adapt tactics to terrain and circumstance." "Captain, that's desertion of an Imperial vessel," Brother Decimus protested. "The blade of Macragge has served for 3 centuries. To simply abandon her is tactically necessary." Titus cut him off, his voice brooking no argument. "A ship is metal and machine spirit. We are the Ultramarines. Our gene seed carries Gilliman's legacy. Our purpose transcends any single vessel. We preserve that legacy and complete our mission protecting these refugees until we understand the full truth of this galaxy's conflict." He turned to address all his brothers, his voice carrying command authority earned through 200 years of warfare. "We came to this galaxy by accident. We've been drawn into a conflict we don't fully understand, but the Codex is clear. When faced with tyranny masquerading as order, when witnessing the strong prey upon the weak, when confronting those who would murder children for political convenience, we do not stand aside. We fight, even if it costs everything." Brother Severus stepped forward first, slamming his fist against his chestplate in salute. "For the Emperor and Ultramar! For the Emperor and Ultramar!" The other brothers echoed, their voices ringing through the damaged command deck. Ahsoka stared at them with something like awe. "You're really doing this? Abandoning your ship, going into hiding, making yourselves fugitives in a galaxy you don't even know all for strangers?" "Not strangers," Titus corrected. "Innocents under our protection. That's all that matters." He turned back to Gaius. "How long do we have before Imperial forces arrive?" 53 minutes. "Then we move now. Severus, coordinate evacuation, maximum ammunition load, medical supplies, portable equipment only. Lysander, prep the wounded for transport. Maximus set scuttling charges throughout the ship when we leave. The blade of Macragge dies with honor, taking any boarders with her. Decimus, you're on youngling escort. Gaius, plot the fastest route to the underworld transit systems. The Ultramarines dispersed with practiced efficiency, each warrior knowing his role. Within minutes, the ship's corridors echoed with controlled demolition preparations and equipment redistribution. Titus walked to the main viewport one last time, looking out across Coruscant's endless cityscape. Somewhere out there, Palpatine sat in his stolen Senate, consolidating power built on lies and murder. Somewhere, Vader nursed his wounds and planned revenge. Somewhere, thousands of clones prepared to converge on this location with orders to kill. And somewhere in the depths below, in the forgotten shadows of the galaxy's capital, 9 Ultramarines and 4 Jedi refugees were about to disappear. The Codex Astartes had a teaching for moments like this. Tactical retreat is not defeat. It is repositioning for inevitable victory. Titus replaced his helmet, sealing it with a hiss of pressurization. "May the Emperor guide our path," he murmured, "and may Robute Guilliman forgive us for what we're about to do." Behind him, the blade of Macragge hummed with the last breath of its dying machine spirit, awaiting the charges that would send it to honorable oblivion. The industrial transit tunnel smelled of rust, lubricant, and centuries of neglect. Titus led his squad through darkness lit only by helmet-mounted lumens, each step taking them deeper into Coruscant's underworld. Behind him, 8 Ultramarines moved in tactical formation, bolters ready, sensors sweeping for threats. Ahsoka and the younglings clustered in the center of the formation, their breathing rapid with exhaustion and fear. "Transit station 2 kilometers ahead," Brother Gaius reported, his auspex painting the route in hololithic overlay. Minimal life signs detected, mostly maintenance droids and automated systems. Above them, the distant thunder of orbital bombardment rolled through layers of duracrete and steel. Palpatine had made good on his threat. The blade of Macragge's death scream echoed through Titus's Vox channel, Brother Maximus's scuttling charges, detonating simultaneously with the Imperial strike. The ship's machine spirit had died fighting, taking 17 gunships and over 200 clone troopers with it. A worthy end. "Contact ahead," Brother Severus warned, his enhanced vision picking out movement in the shadows. Humanoid, multiple signatures. Armed but not military configuration. Titus raised his fist, halting the formation. Through his helmet's augmented vision, he spotted them a dozen figures emerging from side passages, wearing mismatched armor and carrying improvised weapons. Not clones, not Imperial forces. Something else. "Hold fire," Titus commanded. "Let's see what they want." The leader stepped forward, a scarred Weequay male with cybernetic arms and a blaster rifle slung across his back. His eyes widened at the sight of the Ultramarines, but to his credit, he didn't flee. "Well now," the Weequay said in heavily accented Basic. "Don't see your type down here often. Actually, don't see your type ever. You're those warriors from the sky the whole planet's buzzing about. The ones who fought Vader and lived. We're passing through," Titus replied neutrally. "We have no quarrel with you. Didn't say you did." The Weequay grinned, revealing metal teeth. "Name's Vask. I run security for this sector's smuggling operations." Words already spread, the Empire's tearing the upper levels apart, looking for 9 armored giants and a Jedi. Palpatine's offering a bounty that'd buy a small moon. Titus's hand moved to his bolt pistol. "If you're here to collect, easy, big man." Vask raised his hands in mock surrender. "I'm here to offer transport. See, the Empire's bad for business. They shut down trade routes, execute undesirables, impose curfews that cost us millions in lost revenue. Anyone who makes Palpatine's life difficult, that's someone we might want to keep alive. You'd help us out of self-interest, Ahsoka said, her voice dripping with skepticism. What's the real cost? Vask's grin widened. Smart Jedi. All right, here's the deal. We get you off Coruscant using our smuggling network. In exchange, you owe us a favor. One favor, no questions asked, to be collected when we need it. Could be eliminating competition, could be protecting a shipment, could be scaring off Imperial inspectors. Sound fair? Titus exchanged glances with Severus. The Codex warned against bargains with criminals, their loyalties shifted with profit margins, but tactical reality demanded pragmatism. They were trapped on a hostile world with limited resources and an entire empire hunting them. One favor, Titus agreed. Nothing that conflicts with our principles. We don't murder innocents or facilitate activities that harm the defenseless. Fair enough. Vask gestured toward a hidden doorway. Follow me. We've got a cargo hauler modified with stealth systems leaving in 2 hours. Captain owes me credits, so she'll take you to the Outer Rim, no questions asked. Once you're off-world, you're someone else's problem. The smuggler's hideout was a converted maintenance bay filled with contraband spice containers, weapons crates, stolen Imperial equipment. Dozens of criminals worked with efficient purpose, loading cargo and preparing vessels for departure. They gave the Ultramarines wide berth, their eyes reflecting equal parts fear and fascination. A female Twi'lek approached lean, hard-eyed, wearing pilot's gear and a blaster on each hip. Vask, you didn't mention our passengers were walking tanks. My cargo hauler's weight capacity. We'll handle it, Jessa, Vask interrupted smoothly. These warriors saved Jedi younglings from Palpatine's purge. That's worth bending some rules. Jessa studied Titus with calculating intelligence. You really fought Vader? The whole underworld's hearing stories. 9 armored warriors who made the Emperor's attack dog bleed. We defended ourselves. Titus replied simply. Vader attacked. We responded. And you wounded him. Jessa's expression shifted to something like respect. No one's done that since he put on the mask. You know what that means? You're legends now. Every criminal, smuggler, and resistance fighter in this galaxy will have heard your names by tomorrow. The warriors who stood against the Empire and survived. Titus felt uncomfortable with the label. Ultramarines served the Emperor, not glory or reputation, but he recognized the tactical advantage. If their actions inspired resistance to Palpatine's tyranny that served the greater good. How long until departure? Titus asked. 90 minutes, Jessa replied. Imperial patrols are sweeping the upper levels, but they haven't penetrated this deep yet. Once we launch, stealth systems will mask our signature until we hit hyperspace. You'll be in the Outer Rim by tomorrow morning. Ahsoka stepped forward, her exhaustion evident despite Lysander's medical treatment. What about other Jedi? Are there survivors organizing resistance? Vask's expression darkened. Some, scattered across the galaxy, hiding, running. The Empire's Inquisitors hunt them relentlessly, but rumors say a few are gathering on worlds like Kashyyyk and Lothal, trying to coordinate. If you're looking for allies, that's where you'd start. We're not looking for allies, Titus said firmly. We're looking for answers. We need to understand this conflict's full scope before committing to any faction. Smart. Jessa approved. Because this galaxy's more complicated than Empire versus Rebels. You've got separatist holdouts, criminal syndicates, corporate interests, neutral systems trying to stay independent. Pick the wrong side, and you'll find yourself fighting everyone. Brother Gaius approached Titus, pulling him aside. Captain, I've been analyzing intercepted Imperial communications. Vader's injuries were extensive. His life support systems require specialized medical facilities. He'll be out of action for at least 72 hours while technicians perform repairs. That gives us breathing room, Titus acknowledged. But Palpatine will send others. These Inquisitors Vask mentioned. Likely. But, Captain, Gaius hesitated. I've also detected something else. Force-sensitive signals scattered across the planet. Not Jedi, the signatures are different, darker. I think Palpatine's already recruiting new Force users to replace the Jedi Order, building his own army of dark side operatives. The implications settled like lead in Titus's stomach. Palpatine wasn't just eliminating the Jedi, he was replacing them with corrupted alternatives, creating an empire where Force users served tyranny rather than justice. Then we need to move quickly, Titus decided. Once we reach the Outer Rim, we establish a base of operations and gather intelligence. We need to know the full extent of Palpatine's power, who opposes him, and what resources exist to challenge his rule. And if we find no one capable of challenging him? Severus asked quietly. 9 Space Marines can't liberate an entire galaxy. No, Titus agreed, but 9 Space Marines can inspire others to rise. The Codex teaches that leadership by example achieves what force of arms cannot. We show this galaxy that the Empire can be resisted, that Palpatine's tyranny isn't inevitable, that even fallen Jedi can bleed. An alarm shrieked through the hideout. Vask cursed, pulling up a datapad. Imperial forces breaching the perimeter. Someone talked. Sold us out for the bounty. How many? Titus demanded, his squad already moving into defensive positions. Full battalion, AT-STs, clone commandos, the works. They're coming through the main access tunnels. Vask looked at Titus with desperate calculation. We can't fight them. We evacuate now or die here. Jessa, get your ship powered and ready for immediate launch, Titus commanded. Vask, evacuate your people. We'll hold the perimeter. You're insane, Vask protested. There's 300 of them and 9 of you. Actually, Brother Decimius rumbled, checking his bolter's ammunition counter. The odds are in our favor. We're Ultramarines. Titus turned to Ahsoka. Can you fight? She ignited her lightsaber, the blue blade casting dancing shadows. Always. Then stay with the younglings and protect them if our line breaks. Brothers' defensive formation, concentrated fire zones, no heroics. We buy Jessa 10 minutes and not 1 second more. Understood? Understood. Captain, the Ultramarines responded in unison. The first clone commandos appeared in the tunnel entrance, elite soldiers wearing specialized armor and carrying heavy weapons. They moved with professional precision, flashbangs preceding their assault to blind and disorient. But Ultramarines didn't rely on unaugmented vision. Their helmets automatically compensated for sensory overload, tactical displays painting targets in perfect clarity despite smoke and chaos. Fire! Titus commanded. The tunnel exploded with the thunder of mass reactive rounds meeting Imperial armor. Clone commandos fell in waves, their advanced equipment meaningless against weapons designed to kill Space Marines. But for every commando that fell, 2 more advanced. The Empire had numbers. The Empire had resources. The Empire had time. The Ultramarines had fury, faith, and the absolute certainty that they stood on the side of righteousness. Jessa reports ready for launch, Gaius shouted over the weapon's fire. 30 seconds. Fall back by squads, Titus ordered. Severus, your squad first. We leapfrogged to the ship. The Ultramarines executed the tactical retreat with practiced precision, each squad providing covering fire while the other withdrew. Clone casualties mounted horrifically. The Empire was learning the cost of facing Adeptus Astartes in enclosed spaces. Titus was the last to board Jessa's cargo hauler, his bolt pistol empty, his combat knife wet with clone blood. The boarding ramp sealed behind him as the ship's engines roared to life. Hold on, Jessa shouted from the cockpit. This is going to be rough. The cargo hauler shot through the maintenance tunnel like a missile, emergency thrusters screaming. Behind them, the Imperial Battalion could only watch as their prey escaped into Coruscant's labyrinthine depths. Titus stood in the cargo bay, watching the planet fall away through a viewport, and allowed himself one moment of satisfaction. They'd survived. They'd escaped. And somewhere on Coruscant, Palpatine was learning that the Ultramarines were far more than just warriors. They were hope with bolters. The cargo hauler, Lucky Leku, broke atmosphere with rattling protests, its hull plating groaning under atmospheric friction. Titus stood in the cramped cargo bay, mag-locked boots keeping him stable as the ship bucked and weaved through Coruscant's departure corridors. Through the viewport, he watched Imperial patrol craft swarm like insects, their scanners sweeping for the fugitives who'd humiliated the Empire. "Stealth systems holding," Jessa called from the cockpit. "But we've got a problem. Star destroyers are positioning themselves in orbital blockade formation. They're scanning every vessel leaving the planet." Brother Gaius moved to the cockpit entrance, his armor barely fitting through the civilian-sized doorway. "Can your stealth systems fool capital ship sensors?" "Against standard patrols, yes. Against focused scans from a star destroyer?" Jessa's voice carried doubt. "That's asking a lot from smuggler tech." Titus assessed their options with brutal honesty. They couldn't fight one cargo hauler against Imperial capital ships was suicide. They couldn't hide indefinitely. Fuel and life support had limits. And they couldn't surrender. That meant death for the Jedi and potential corruption or execution for the Ultramarines. "What's our hyperspace window?" Titus asked. 12 minutes until we're clear of planetary gravity well," Jessa replied. "But there's 3 star destroyers between us and that window. We have to pass through their scanning field." Ahsoka limped into the cockpit area, the younglings clustered behind her. "Let me help. I can use the Force to cloud their perceptions, make them overlook us. It's a Jedi mind trick on a massive scale, difficult, but possible." "You're barely standing," Titus observed. "That kind of effort could kill you. Better than letting those children die because I was too weak to try." Titus studied the Togruta Jedi, this warrior who'd lost everything but refused to surrender. He recognized the expression. He'd seen it on Imperial Guard officers ordering final charges, on Space Marine brothers making last stands to buy their squad's escape. Determination born from accepting death as price for duty. "No," Titus decided. "We don't sacrifice you. There's another way." He activated Squad Vox. Brothers Maximus and Decimus, prepare 2 escape pods. Load them with Imperial equipment we salvaged, clone armor, weapons, communications gear. Set them on automated distress beacon protocols. Severus caught on immediately. "Decoys. We launch them on diverging vectors, make the Empire think we're splitting up. They'll have to divide their attention." "Exactly. And while they're chasing false signals, we slip through on minimal power emissions." Titus turned to Jessa. "Can you mask our signature enough to look like background debris? If I shut down everything, non-essential life support on minimal, weapons offline, engines at station keeping, thrust only." Jessa's fingers danced across controls. "We'd be basically floating dead in space. But yeah, we'd read as wreckage rather than active vessel. Do it. Launch the decoys the moment we're in scanner range." The Lucky Leku approached the Imperial blockade with agonizing slowness. Through the viewport, Titus watched the Star Destroyers grow larger, massive wedge-shaped vessels bristling with turbo-laser batteries and fighter squadrons. Each ship carried enough firepower to level continents. Each crew numbered in the tens of thousands, the Imperial war machine made manifest. "Launching decoys now," Maximus reported. 2 escape pods shot away from the cargo hauler on diverging courses, their distress beacons screaming fake emergencies. Titus watched the Imperial response with professional appreciation. Patrol craft immediately vectored to intercept, scanning beams converging on the pods. The Star Destroyer's attention focused on potential prey. "Cutting all non-essential power," Jessa announced. The cargo bay lights died, replaced by emergency lumens. Temperature dropped as life support throttled to minimal. "We're ghosts now. Don't even breathe loud." The Lucky Leku drifted through the scanning field like debris from orbital combat. Titus held his breath despite not needing to centuries of combat instinct, recognizing the moment where discovery meant death. His helmet display showed the Star Destroyer's scanner beam sweeping across their hull once, twice, 3 times, then moving on. "They're ignoring us," Gaius whispered, disbelief coloring his voice. "They think we're wreckage from the earlier bombardment." "Don't celebrate yet," Jessa cautioned. "We still need to reach the hyperspace window, and one of those decoys is about to get very thoroughly inspected." Through the viewport, Titus watched Imperial patrol craft converge on the first escape pod. When they discovered it was unmanned salvage, the alert would spread instantly. The blockade would tighten. Every vessel would receive maximum scrutiny. "Time to hyperspace window?" Titus asked. 7 minutes, but we can't accelerate without revealing ourselves. Then we drift. Trust the Emperor's providence and your stealth systems." The minutes stretched like hours. Titus watched the Imperial forces discover the first decoy's deception, saw patrol patterns shift to aggressive search protocols. Scanner beams swept the orbital space with renewed intensity. A TIE fighter squadron passed within 500 meters, their pilots surely wondering about the debris field that wasn't there during their previous patrol, but they didn't investigate closely. Couldn't spare the attention while hunting 9 armored warriors and a Jedi who'd become the Empire's most wanted fugitives. "Hyperspace window in 30 seconds, Jessa announced, her hands hovering over the navigation controls. "Moment we jump, every Star Destroyer will know exactly where we were. They'll calculate our vector, dispatch pursuit." "Where are we jumping?" Ahsoka asked. "Tatooine. Outer Rim desert world, minimal Imperial presence, perfect for laying low." Jessa glanced back at the Ultramarines. "Also happens to be where I've got contacts who won't immediately sell you out. Much. Tatooine," Titus repeated, filing the name away. "What's there?" "Sand, crime, and people who mind their own business. Also maybe some scattered Jedi survivors if the rumors are true. It's as safe as anywhere in a galaxy where the Empire controls everything." The hyperspace window opened. Jessa's hands flew across controls, and the Lucky Leku's hyperdrive engaged with a rising whine that built to crescendo. Space twisted, stars elongating into lines of impossible light. Then they were gone, escaped into hyperspace, while the Imperial blockade scrambled to track prey that had vanished like smoke. In the cargo bay, Titus allowed himself to unseal his helmet. The recycled air tasted of lubricant and fear, but it was the taste of survival. Around him, his brothers stood in silent contemplation, each processing what they'd just accomplished. "We fought Darth Vader," Brother Decimus said quietly. "We wounded him. We escaped Coruscant despite the entire Imperial military hunting us. Captain, I've served 2 centuries. And I've never seen a tactical situation that desperate end in success." "The Emperor protects," Titus replied, the phrase automatic after 200 years of service. But even as he spoke the words, doubt crept in. They were trapped in an alien galaxy, cut off from the Imperium, their ship destroyed, their mission undefined. The God Emperor of mankind, if he even existed in this reality, was impossibly far away. Perhaps here, in this galaxy, they would need to find their own path. Ahsoka approached, the younglings trailing behind like shadows. "Thank you," she said simply, "for everything. You didn't have to help us, didn't have to make enemies of the most powerful government in the galaxy, but you did anyway. The Codex demands it," Titus replied. "When we see injustice, we intervene. When we witness tyranny, we resist." when innocents need protection. He looked down at the three younglings, human, Twi'lek, and Rodian, none older than 12 standard years. We stand between them and the darkness, no matter the cost. Your codex sounds like the Jedi Code, Ahsoka observed. Different words, same principles. Perhaps, Titus acknowledged, though your Jedi Order failed to prevent this catastrophe. Our codex has preserved the Imperium for 10 millennia. Has it? Ahsoka's challenge was gentle but pointed. Or has it just prolonged the suffering? You speak of your Emperor, your Imperium, your 10,000 years of warfare. That doesn't sound like victory. It sounds like endless war justified by necessity. The word struck deeper than Titus wanted to admit. The Imperium was built on suffering trillions dying in foundries and battlefields, entire worlds sacrificed for strategic advantage, populations living in fear of chaos and Xenos and their own government's brutal efficiency. It was necessary. It was survival. It was. We don't have the luxury of idealism, Titus said finally. The Imperium faces threats you can't imagine. Things that make your Sith Lords look like children playing with power they don't understand. Maybe, Ahsoka conceded, but I've seen what happens when people abandon idealism for pragmatism, when they justify atrocity with necessity. That's how Anakin became Vader. That's how the Republic became the Empire. Be careful, Ultramarine. The road to darkness is paved with tactical necessity. Titus had no answer for that. Instead, he turned to Brother Gaius. How long until we reach Tatooine? 18 hours at current speed. Then we rest, resupply, and plan our next move. We're fugitives in an unknown galaxy, but we're alive. We're armed, and we've proven that even the Empire's champions can bleed. He looked at each of his brothers in turn. We came here by accident, but perhaps the Emperor had purpose in our arrival. Perhaps we're meant to be the catalyst that shows this galaxy that tyranny can be resisted. Or perhaps we're just 9 warriors far from home, making the best of impossible circumstances, Severus said pragmatically. Perhaps, Titus agreed. But the Codex teaches, purpose is found not in grand destiny, but in daily choices. We chose to save those children. We chose to defy Palpatine. We chose to fight Vader. Every choice defines us more than any predetermined fate. In the cockpit, Jessa called back. You warriors are welcome to rest. Hyperspace is smooth sailing until we hit Tatooine's system. I'll wake you when we drop out. The Ultramarines settled into combat rest, a light meditative state where enhanced biology maintained alertness while conserving energy. The younglings curled up in a corner, exhaustion finally claiming them. Ahsoka sat near the viewport, staring at the swirling hyperspace corridor as if searching for answers in the impossible light. And Brother Sergeant Titus stood watch, as he'd stood watch for 2 centuries, guardian against darkness in whatever form it took. Behind them lay Coruscant, the Empire's heart, where Palpatine plotted and Vader healed, and thousands of clones hunted for fugitives who'd humiliated their new order. Ahead lay Tatooine, unknown territory, uncertain allies, and the first steps toward understanding this galaxy's true nature. The war had just begun, and the Ultramarines would fight it the only way they knew how, with faith, fury, and the absolute conviction that some principles were worth dying for. Tatooine's twin suns blazed through the Lucky Leku's viewport as the cargo hauler dropped from hyperspace. Titus studied the desert world with tactical assessment, endless sand dunes, scattered moisture farms, minimal urban development. A backwater planet far from Imperial attention, perfect for regrouping. Mos Eisley spaceport dead ahead, Jessa announced. Wretched hive of scum and villainy, but they don't ask questions. Imperial presence is minimal, just a small garrison and occasional patrols. The cargo hauler descended through atmosphere, heat shimmers rising from endless desert below. Titus's auto-senses registered extreme temperatures, low humidity, hostile environment for extended operations. But the Ultramarines had fought on death worlds across the Imperium. Tatooine was merely uncomfortable, not impossible. Landing Bay 94, Jessa said as the ship settled onto scorched Duracrete. Keep your weapons concealed if possible. Mos Eisley's lawless, but walking around in full armor carrying those cannons you call guns will attract attention we don't need. Titus looked down at his cobalt blue ceramite plate, then at his brother's equally distinctive armor. We're 8 feet tall and wearing power armor. Concealment isn't an option. Fair point. Jessa powered down systems. Then try not to shoot anyone unless absolutely necessary. These smugglers and criminals might tolerate weirdness, but they don't appreciate bloodbaths interfering with business. The boarding ramp lowered, and Tatooine's heat struck like a physical blow. Titus's armor immediately began thermal regulation, but he felt the hostile environment through his interface connections. Around him, his brothers adapted without complaint. Centuries of warfare had taken them to frozen ice worlds and volcanic hellscapes. Desert heat was merely another variable. Ahsoka led the younglings down the ramp, her head covering pulled low to conceal her distinctive montrals. The children stayed close, wide-eyed at the bustling spaceport. Dozens of species moved through the bay. Rhodians, Gamorreans, Duros, and countless others Titus couldn't identify. All of them stopped and stared at the Ultramarines. Well, Brother Decimius rumbled. So much for not attracting attention. Stay close. Maintain formation, Titus commanded. Ahsoka, find us lodging where 9 warriors and 4 refugees can operate without constant surveillance. A short, bearded human in merchant's robes approached, eyes calculating profit margins. Your new arrivals. Need supplies? Information? I'm Watto's competitor. Better prices. More discretion. Lodging, Titus interrupted. Private, defensible, away from Imperial patrols. The merchant's enthusiasm dimmed slightly. That's specific. And expensive. You got credits? Brother Gaius produced a handful of Imperial credit chips salvaged from Coruscant. The merchant's eyes widened. Imperial military currency. That's hot merchandise. Worth double standard rate on the black market. He pocketed the chips quickly. Follow me. I know a place. The merchant led them through Mos Eisley's winding streets, narrow passages between adobe structures, the air thick with exotic smells and multilingual shouting. Titus's threat recognition systems remained on high alert, cataloging potential ambush points and defensive positions. The Codex taught constant vigilance, and this lawless settlement screamed danger from every shadow. They passed a cantina belching music and violence into the street. Through the entrance, Titus glimpsed the interior packed with criminals and smugglers, weapons openly displayed, the atmosphere thick with intoxicants and desperation. A very different world from the Imperium's controlled populations. Here, the merchant announced, gesturing to a compound surrounded by high walls. Former moisture farm, abandoned after the owners died. No questions asked, no Imperial inspections, and thick enough walls to hide whatever you're doing inside. 3,000 credits per week. Gaius produced more Imperial currency. The merchant accepted eagerly, then departed before his new clients could reconsider the inflated price. The compound was Spartan 4 structures arranged around a central courtyard, water recyclers humming in the oppressive heat, but defensible. Titus immediately began tactical assessment, positioning brothers at key defensive points, establishing fields of fire, planning evacuation routes. We're safe here? One of the younglings asked the human boy who'd first spoken on Coruscant. Safe is relative, Titus replied. But safer than Coruscant. Rest now. We have planning to do. As the younglings settled into one structure and Ahsoka stood watch over them, Titus gathered his brothers in the central courtyard. The twin suns beat down mercilessly, but the Ultramarines ignored discomfort as they faced the fundamental question of their existence in this galaxy. "Status report," Titus commanded. "Ammunition at 60% capacity," Severus reported. "Power armor functioning but requiring maintenance. We lack facilities to perform. Medical supplies sufficient for minor injuries. Only Brother Tiberius and Brother Marcus require proper apothecary facilities we don't have access to. Equipment salvaged from Coruscant includes 3 clone trooper armor sets, 12 blaster rifles, miscellaneous Imperial communications gear," Gaius added. "Also recovered data cores with strategic information, fleet positions, garrison strengths, Imperial protocols." "Good," Titus acknowledged. "That gives us intelligence advantage. What about local threats? Mos Eisley is controlled by Jabba the Hutt, a crime lord who runs smuggling, slavery, and extortion operations across Tatooine," Gaius explained. "Imperial garrison is minimal, maybe 200 stormtroopers and a commander. Real power here is criminal, not political. Then we need to establish contact with whoever opposes the Empire," Titus decided. "Ahsoka mentioned Jedi survivors gathering resistance. If there's organized opposition, we need to know their capabilities and intentions." "Captain," Severus said carefully, "what exactly is our mission now? We're stranded in an alien galaxy, no way home, no orders from Ultramar, no contact with the Imperium. We've involved ourselves in a local conflict based on moral judgment, not strategic necessity. What's our endgame?" The question hung in the superheated air. Titus recognized the doubt in his brother's voice, not cowardice, but legitimate tactical concern. They were 9 space marines without support, without mission parameters, without clear objectives, operating on individual conscience rather than chain of command. "Our mission," Titus said slowly, "is the same as it's always been. Protect humanity from tyranny and corruption. Palpatine represents both. He orchestrated genocide, seized absolute power through deception, and rules through fear. That makes him a threat we're oath-bound to oppose. Even if it costs our lives?" Brother Maximus asked. "Even if we can never return to the Imperium? Even if our gene seed dies with us on this forgotten desert world?" "Yes," Titus replied without hesitation. "Because the alternative is abandoning our principles, becoming mercenaries who fight only when convenient. The Codex teaches that Space Marines serve something greater than personal survival. We serve the ideal of humanity's defense wherever we find ourselves, whatever the cost." Brother Decimus stepped forward. "I stand with the captain. We didn't become Ultramarines to calculate acceptable losses and tactical retreat. We became Ultramarines to be the Emperor's wrath made manifest. And right now, in this galaxy, Palpatine needs to learn what that wrath looks like." One by one, the other brothers voiced agreement. Even Severus, despite his pragmatic concerns, nodded acceptance. They were Ultramarines. They would fight. "Then we plan our next move," Titus said. "Gaius, analyze that Imperial data. Find weaknesses, supply lines, garrison vulnerabilities, communication protocols we can exploit. Maximus, inventory our weapons and ammunition. Calculate sustainable combat operations. Lysander, assess medical situation and determine what local resources might substitute for Imperial equipment. Decimus, establish perimeter security." As his brothers dispersed to assigned tasks, Ahsoka emerged from the structure housing the younglings. "They're sleeping. First time they felt safe enough to truly rest since the Purge began." "Good," Titus said. "They've earned it." He studied the Togruta Jedi. "Tell me about the Force. Not what it does, I've seen that, but what it is, where it comes from, why Palpatine's corruption of it represents such danger." Ahsoka settled onto a stone bench, exhaustion evident despite her efforts to hide it. The Force is energy that flows through all living things. It binds the galaxy together, connects every being in an invisible web. Some people are more sensitive to it, can feel its currents, influence its flow. That's what makes someone Force sensitive. Like your Imperium's psychers, Titus observed. Similar, but different. The Force has two aspects, light and dark. The light side comes from peace, compassion, selflessness. The dark side feeds on anger, hatred, fear. Both offer power, but the dark side is easier, more seductive. It promises strength without the discipline required by the light. And Palpatine chose the dark side. Palpatine is the dark side, Ahsoka corrected. He's a Sith Lord, ancient order dedicated to domination through dark side corruption. For 1,000 years, the Sith hid in shadows, manipulating galactic events, waiting for their moment. Palpatine was that moment. He orchestrated an entire war, played both sides, maneuvered the Jedi into positions where Order 66 would be most effective. Everything that's happened, he planned it. Titus processed this information, comparing it to the Imperium's own history of corruption. And Vader? How did a Jedi become Sith? Ahsoka's expression crumbled with grief. Anakin was. He was the best of us. Powerful, brave, passionate about protecting those he loved. But that passion became his weakness. He feared losing people, feared not being strong enough. Palpatine exploited that fear, promised him power to prevent death. And Anakin, he fell, traded everything he believed in for the promise of saving one person. Did he succeed? I don't know, Ahsoka admitted. I fled before learning the full story. But knowing Palpatine? Whatever Anakin traded his soul for, the Sith Lord probably took it anyway. That's how the dark side works. It promises everything and delivers only suffering. Brother Gaius emerged from his assigned structure, datapad in hand. Captain, I found something in the Imperial data cores. A transmission referencing Project Stardust, a weapon system under construction in the Outer Rim. Details are classified, but energy expenditure calculations suggest something massive. Planet-scale destruction capability. Titus felt cold certainty settle in his gut. The Imperium had weapons capable of planetary annihilation, exterminatus protocols authorized under extreme circumstances. If Palpatine was building similar capabilities, where? Titus demanded. Location encrypted, but supply manifests reference a system called Geonosis. Desert world with droid foundries, currently under Imperial occupation with extreme security protocols. A weapon that can destroy planets, Ahsoka breathed. That's... The Jedi sensed darkness in the Force, but nothing like this. Palpatine isn't just consolidating power, he's preparing to rule through absolute terror. Then we need more information, Titus decided, and we need allies who can help us stop it. He turned to Ahsoka. You mentioned Jedi survivors gathering resistance. Where? Rumors point to a planet called Lothal Outer Rim World with growing dissent against Imperial occupation. If there's organized resistance, that's where we'd find it. Then Lothal is our next destination. Titus activated Squad Vox. All brothers, prepare for departure. We leave Tatooine at dawn. Our mission is now defined. Gather intelligence on Imperial weapons development, make contact with resistance forces, and determine if this galaxy has the strength to fight back against tyranny. And if it doesn't? Severus asked. Then we provide that strength ourselves, Titus replied. We're Ultramarines. 9 of us have held entire battlefields. Let's see what 9 of us can accomplish in a galaxy that's forgotten how to resist. As Tatooine's twin suns began their descent toward distant horizons, painting the desert in shades of crimson and gold, 9 space marines and 4 refugees prepared for war. They had no reinforcements coming, no fleet support, no guarantee of survival, but they had purpose, they had faith, and they had the absolute conviction that some evils must be opposed, regardless of cost. The Imperium might be impossibly far away, but the Emperor's will, the true imperative to defend humanity from darkness, burned as bright here as it did in their home galaxy, and Palpatine's empire was about to learn what happened when that imperative took the form of 9 warriors who'd never learned how to surrender. The stolen Imperial shuttle dropped out of hyperspace above Lothal, its transponder broadcasting false authorization codes that Brother Gaius had extracted from Coruscant's data cores. Titus stood in the cramped cockpit beside Jessa, who'd insisted on piloting despite the danger. "You warriors saved my life on Coruscant," she'd said. "Least I can do is help you find your rebellion." "Imperial checkpoint ahead," Jessa announced, her fingers dancing across controls. 2 patrol craft and a custom station, standard inspection protocol. "Will the codes hold?" Titus asked. "They're 3 days old and flagged as active in the system, should pass automated scans." Jessa's expression tightened. "Unless someone decides to board us for manual inspection, then we're fighting our way through." The patrol craft approached, sensors painting the shuttle with scanning beams. Titus's helmet display tracked weapons locks engaging, then disengaging as the false codes registered as legitimate. The customs station transmitted clearance, and the patrol craft peeled away to intercept other incoming traffic. "We're through," Jessa breathed relief. "Capital City landing zone authorized. Try not to shoot anyone immediately." Lothal's capital sprawled beneath them, a mix of industrial complexes and residential sectors. Imperial architecture replacing local designs with brutal efficiency. Factories belched smoke into pale skies, and AT-AT walkers patrolled streets with mechanical precision. The Empire's occupation was obvious and oppressive. The shuttle settled onto a commercial landing pad. Titus gathered his squad in the cargo bay, where Ahsoka was helping the younglings prepare for disembarkment. The children looked healthier after 3 days of rest and proper food, but trauma still haunted their eyes. "Remember," Titus instructed, "we're foreign mercenaries hired for security work. Our armor is distinctive, but this galaxy has countless species and technologies. Act confident, speak minimally, and follow Ahsoka's lead regarding local customs." "And if Imperial forces challenge us?" Brother Maximus asked, checking his bolter's ammunition load. "Avoid conflict unless absolutely necessary. We're here for intelligence and allies, not to start a war we can't win." Titus looked at each brother in turn. "But if combat becomes unavoidable, show them what Ultramarines are capable of." They disembarked into Lothal's industrial sector, where factory workers and merchant traffic created constant movement. The Ultramarines drew stares, their cobalt blue armor and imposing size marking them as foreign, but no one challenged them. In an empire spanning thousands of worlds, strange warriors were merely another curiosity. "Where exactly are we going?" Severus asked quietly over Squad Vox. "District 7, Ahsoka replied, pulling her hood lower. "I've heard rumors of a resistance cell operating there. If we can make contact without triggering Imperial attention." "Contact ahead," Brother Gaius interrupted, his auspex detecting humanoid signatures moving in tactical formation. 6 individuals armed, tracking our movement. Not Imperial, their equipment signature is civilian grade. "The Resistance?" Titus asked. "Or criminals looking for easy targets," Severus suggested pragmatically. The 6 figures emerged from a side alley, humans and Twi'leks wearing mismatched armor and carrying blasters. Their leader, a teenage human with blue-black hair, stepped forward with more confidence than his years suggested. "You're the warriors from Coruscant," he stated. "Not a question, a declaration. The ones who fought Vader and escaped." Word spread across every rebel network in the Outer Rim. "We've been waiting for someone like you." "Who are you?" Titus demanded. Ezra Bridger. I work with a crew that's been hitting Imperial targets on Lothal. Small stuff, mostly supply raids, communications disruption, rescuing political prisoners. His eyes swept across the Ultramarines with barely concealed awe. But with warriors like you, we could do real damage. We're not mercenaries, Titus replied. We don't fight for credits or local politics. Good, Ezra said, because we don't have credits, and this stopped being local politics the moment Palpatine declared himself Emperor. You want to hurt the Empire? So do we. Seems like we've got common cause. A woman emerged from the shadows, green-skinned Twi'lek, wearing armor and carrying herself with military discipline. I'm Hera Syndulla, captain of the Ghost. Ezra's right, we've been monitoring Imperial communications. The whole galaxy knows about Coruscant. 9 warriors who defied the Emperor, wounded Vader, rescued Jedi from the Purge. You've become symbols whether you intended to or not. Symbols don't win wars, Titus observed. No, Hera agreed, but symbols inspire others to fight. Before you, people believed the Empire was invincible. Now they know it can bleed. That's worth more than a dozen Star Destroyers. Brother Decimia stepped forward. Your organized resistance? How many warriors can you field? What's your strategic capability? Hera's expression turned grim. Honestly, we're a single crew with 1 modified freighter, maybe a dozen contacts across the Outer Rim with similar operations. We hit targets of opportunity, evacuate refugees, spread anti-imperial propaganda. We're mosquitoes biting a bantha, annoying but not threatening. Then why approach us? Titus asked. What do you hope to accomplish? Because mosquitoes working together can bring down a bantha, Ezra interjected, and because I saw something in a Force vision, before you ask. I saw armored warriors in blue standing against darkness. I saw hope where there was only fear. I don't know what you are or where you came from, but the Force brought you here for a reason. Titus exchanged glances with Severus. The Codex taught skepticism about prophecy and mysticism. Faith in the Emperor was one thing, but visions and destiny were tools of manipulation. Yet, they'd witnessed the Force's reality. Vader's power, Palpatine's corruption. Perhaps this Force did guide events in ways the Imperium's materialism couldn't explain. We need information, Titus said. Imperial weapon development, specifically a project called Stardust. Do your networks have intelligence on it? Hera's expression shifted to concern. We've heard whispers. Massive construction project in the Outer Rim, consuming resources from dozens of systems. Imperial security is absolute. Anyone investigating disappears. We don't know what it is, but the scale suggests something catastrophic. A weapon capable of destroying planets, Ahsoka said quietly. We recovered fragments of data on Coruscant. If Palpatine completes it, then the Empire won't need to occupy worlds, Hera finished. They'll simply threaten annihilation, rule through absolute terror. She looked at Titus with desperate intensity. Can you help us? Can you fight against something that large? Titus considered the tactical reality. 9 Space Marines against a galactic empire. The Codex would call it suicide. Logic demanded they find a way home, abandon this galaxy to its fate. But the Codex also taught that sometimes tactical impossibility was merely opportunity in disguise. We can fight, Titus decided. But not alone. You said there are other resistance cells? I'm great. Fiver Aver. We are in meeting. We can fight, scattered across the Outer Rim. Independent operations with no coordination. Then we change that. We organize them, build a network capable of unified action. Titus looked at his brothers. The Codex teaches that Space Marines don't fight wars alone. We provide leadership, inspiration, and tactical expertise that transforms ordinary soldiers into effective warriors. We can do the same here. You're talking about building an actual rebellion, Hera said, hope and disbelief warring in her expression. That's possible, Severus interjected. We've fought alongside the Imperial Guard, seen what properly trained and motivated baseline humans can accomplish. Your galaxy's populations are oppressed, frightened, scattered, but fear can become fury. Scattered resistance can become coordinated warfare. All it requires is someone willing to lead. Ezra grinned. I like these guys. An alarm shrieked across the district, Imperial alert protocols broadcasting from loudspeakers. Brother Gaius's auspex lit up with contacts. Captain? Multiple Imperial patrols converging on our position. Someone reported us. Time to contact. 3 minutes. Hera cursed. We need to move. The Ghost is docked 2 sectors away. If we can reach it before the Imperials lock down the spaceport, lead the way, Titus commanded. Brothers, defensive formation. Ahsoka, protect the younglings. We fight only if cornered. They moved through Lothal's streets with practiced efficiency. The Ultramarines enhanced speed, allowing them to cover ground faster than pursuing stormtroopers. But the Empire's response was overwhelming. ATSTs appeared on parallel streets. TIE fighters screamed overhead. Patrol craft established aerial blockade. They're not trying to capture us, Severus observed. They're trying to box us in for orbital strike. The spaceport's ahead, Hera called. Bay 17, the Ghost's warming engines now. They burst into the spaceport to find stormtroopers already establishing positions. 2 squads, 40 troopers with heavy weapons and firing solutions calculated for maximum coverage. Behind them, an ATST walker stomped into position, its chin-mounted blasters powering up. Contact front! Brother Maximus called unnecessarily. Every Ultramarine had already assessed the tactical situation. Suppressing fire, advance by squads, Titus commanded. We break through or die here. The Ultramarines opened fire with devastating precision. Mass reactive bolts screamed through air, each round guided by centuries of combat experience and targeting cogitators, calculating trajectories with inhuman accuracy. Stormtroopers fell in waves, their armor meaningless against weapons designed to kill Space Marines. But the ATST was a different problem. Its armor could withstand bolter fire, and its weapons could crack ceramite plate. Brother Gaius targeted its viewport with concentrated fire, but the walker's pilot was competent, keeping vulnerable points angled away while returning fire that forced the Ultramarines to scatter. I've got this, Ezra shouted. He extended his hand, and the Force responded. The ATST lurched, its massive frame lifting from the ground as invisible energy gripped it. The walker's pilot fought the controls desperately, but physics bowed to Ezra's will. The ATST crashed onto its side with grinding metal protests, vulnerable underbelly exposed. Brother Maximus didn't waste the opportunity. 3 well-placed bolts into the walker's power core, and the ATST exploded in a fireball that sent shrapnel cascading across the spaceport. Move! Hera screamed, her freighter's boarding ramp already lowering. The Ultramarines, resistance fighters, Jedi, and younglings piled aboard the Ghost as blaster fire chewed through duracrete around them. The ship's engines roared to life, lifting off even as the last warriors scrambled inside. Hang on, Hera called from the cockpit. This is going to be rough. The Ghost shot through Lothal's atmosphere with Imperial patrol craft in pursuit. TIE fighters dove in, laser cannons painting the hull with energy fire, but Hera flew with skill born from years of smuggling and rebellion, threading through industrial towers, using terrain to break targeting locks, pushing her ship beyond safe parameters. They broke atmosphere with alarms screaming and hull integrity at critical levels, but they broke atmosphere, and as the ghost aligned for hyperspace jump, Titus allowed himself one moment of satisfaction. They'd found allies. They'd proven the Empire could be resisted, and they'd taken the first step toward building something that might actually challenge Palpatine's tyranny. The rebellion had begun, and the Ultramarines would see it through to victory or death. The ghost limped through hyperspace, its hull scorched and systems damaged from the Lothal escape. Titus stood in the cramped common area, watching Hera's crew work with efficient desperation. The Lasat warrior Zeb welding hull breaches, the astromech droid Chopper rerouting power from non-essential systems, the Mandalorian Sabine calculating their hyperspace exit vector. "Where are we going?" Titus asked Hera. "Atelon. Remote system in the Outer Rim, uninhabited except for wildlife. It's where we've been establishing a base, nothing fancy, but it's off Imperial charts and defensible." She studied the Ultramarines with calculating respect. "You really are as dangerous as the rumors claim. I watched you cut through 2 stormtrooper squads like they were training dummies." "We're Space Marines," Titus replied simply. "This is what we were created for." "Created?" Ezra asked, looking up from where he sat with the younglings. "You're not born, you're made. Recruited as children, subjected to genetic enhancement and decades of training," Brother Severus explained. 19 additional organs implanted over years of surgery and conditioning. By the time we're finished, we're barely human, stronger, faster, more durable than baseline biology allows. We're weapons forged by the Emperor to defend humanity. "Sounds like what the Jedi did," Ahsoka observed quietly. "Taking children, training them from youth, making them into something beyond normal people. Maybe your Imperium and the Jedi Order aren't so different." "The difference," Titus said sharply, "is that we succeeded. The Imperium has endured 10,000 years. Your Jedi Order collapsed after one well-planned betrayal." The words hung harsh in recycled air. Ahsoka flinched but didn't respond. Titus immediately regretted his tone, battle stress and exhaustion eroding the diplomatic discipline the Codex demanded. But truth remained. The Jedi had failed where the Imperium persevered. "We're approaching Atelon," Hera announced, breaking the tension. "Brace for reversion." The ghost dropped from hyperspace above a planet of red deserts and sparse vegetation. In orbit floated dozens of ships, freighters, corvettes, modified transports, and on the surface, prefabricated structures formed a growing base. "This is your rebellion?" Brother Gaius asked, his auspex counting maybe 200 life signs total. "This is the beginning," Hera corrected. 3 months ago, it was just my crew. Now we've got volunteers from a dozen systems, ships donated by sympathetic merchants, and coordination with resistance cells across the Outer Rim. It's not much, but it's growing. The ghost landed among the assembled ships. As the boarding ramp lowered, Titus led his squad out to find themselves surrounded by armed rebels, humans, Twi'leks, Mon Calamari, and species he didn't recognize. All of them stared at the Ultramarines with mixtures of awe and fear. A human male approached, wearing military insignia and carrying himself with command authority. "I'm Commander Jun Sato, coordinating officer for this cell. You're the Coruscant Warriors?" "Brother Sergeant Titus, Ultramarines, 2nd Company. These are my brothers." Titus gestured to his squad. "We seek to oppose the Empire. Hera suggested your organization might provide mutual benefit." "Mutual benefit," Sato repeated with dry amusement. Diplomatic phrasing for, "We're all going to die fighting Palpatine, might as well coordinate." "Come. We need to talk strategy." The command center was a converted cargo container filled with holographic displays and communications equipment. Sato activated a tactical map showing Imperial-controlled territory, which was essentially everything. "Current situation," Sato began. "The Empire controls the core worlds absolutely, the Mid-Rim firmly, and the Outer Rim through garrison forces and local collaborators. They have thousands of Star Destroyers, millions of stormtroopers, and the industrial capacity to replace losses faster than we can inflict them. We have scattered cells with maybe 10,000 fighters total, no capital ships worth mentioning, and exactly 0 strategic resources. You're describing a war you can't win, Severus observed. Correct, Sato agreed. Which is why we focus on survival, propaganda, and hoping something changes before the Empire crushes us completely. He looked at Titus with desperate intensity. But you changed the calculus. You wounded Vader. You escaped Coruscant. You've proven the Empire can be hurt. That alone has tripled our recruitment in 3 days. Brother Gaius pulled up the intelligence they'd recovered. We've detected reference to an Imperial superweapon project Stardust. Do you have any additional information? Sato's expression darkened. We've intercepted fragments. Construction is happening somewhere in the Outer Rim, consuming resources from occupied systems. Security is absolute. Entire construction crews are apparently being eliminated after completion to prevent intelligence leaks. We don't know what it is, but the scale suggests something apocalyptic. Then our priority is intelligence gathering, Titus decided. We need to know what this weapon is, where it's being built, and how to destroy it before completion. Easier said than done, Sato replied. Imperial security around anything related to Stardust is impenetrable. We'd need someone with high-level access, or someone who can infiltrate Imperial facilities, Brother Decimus suggested. We retrieved Imperial communications equipment from Coruscant. With proper modification, we could impersonate authorization codes and gain access to restricted data. That's insane, Hera protested. Imperial facilities have biometric scans, security protocols, multiple verification layers. You can't just walk in claiming to be authorized. We can't, Titus agreed, but we don't need to walk in the front door. He turned to Sato. Do you have intelligence on Imperial supply convoys? Specifically, convoys heading toward restricted construction zones. Sato caught on immediately. You want to hijack a convoy and follow it to the weapon's location. Precisely. The Codex teaches that sometimes the best intelligence comes not from intercepting communications, but from following the logistics. Weapons require resources. Resources require transport. Transport requires routes. Follow the routes. Find the weapon. It could work, Gaius said, already calculating probabilities. Imperial convoys operate on predictable schedules. If we intercept one carrying specialized components, materials that would only be used for unique construction, we could track the delivery to its destination. And then what? Ahsoka asked. Even if you find this weapon, your 9 warriors against whatever Imperial forces are guarding it, that's suicide. Perhaps, Titus acknowledged. But the Codex also teaches that sometimes the only winning move is the one your enemy believes you won't attempt. Palpatine thinks he's won, thinks the Jedi are eliminated, resistance is scattered, his empire is invincible. He's wrong, and we're going to prove it. Over the next hours, they planned. Sato provided intelligence on Imperial convoy routes. Brother Gaius analyzed patterns, identifying high-value targets. Hera volunteered the Ghost for insertion and extraction. Ezra offered his Force abilities for infiltration support. We hit the convoy in the Lothal Minor system, Titus decided, pointing to the tactical display. Isolated hyperspace lane, minimal patrol activity. We disable the escort ships, board the transport, extract data on its destination, then follow at distance. Once we know where Stardust is located, we assess whether destruction is feasible. And if it's not feasible, Severus asked, then we gather intelligence and withdraw. This is reconnaissance, not assault. We learn what we're facing before committing to direct action. The plan was set. The rebels provided what resources they could: ammunition, medical supplies, replacement parts for damaged equipment. The Ultramarines prepared with methodical precision, each brother checking weapons and armor, performing the rituals of maintenance that connected them to centuries of tradition. As Tatooine's sun set, casting the rebel base in crimson light, Titus stood alone watching the assembled forces. 200 rebels, 9 space marines, 4 Jedi refugees, against an empire of trillions. The Codex would call it impossible. Logic demanded they flee, find a way home, abandon this galaxy to its fate. But Rabute Guilliman had written something else in the Codex's final pages, words every Ultramarine learned but few truly understood. When all tactical options lead to defeat, when logic demands surrender, when even faith seems insufficient, that is when the truly faithful find their purpose. For the Emperor does not demand victory. He demands that we stand, regardless of cost, against the darkness that would consume humanity. Stand, brothers, stand and fight, even unto death. For in that final stand, we prove that humanity is worth saving. Titus had never fully grasped those words, had dismissed them as philosophical abstraction. But here, in this alien galaxy, facing impossible odds with no hope of reinforcement finally, he understood this was their final stand, not because they would die here, but because here they would prove what they truly believed: that tyranny must be opposed, that innocence must be protected, that some principles transcended tactical calculation. Brother Severus joined him, standing silent for a long moment before speaking. We're really doing this, committing to a war we can't win, in a galaxy we don't belong to, for people we barely know. Yes, Titus confirmed. The Codex would call us fools. The Codex would call us faithful. Severus smiled, a rare expression on his scarred face. Then let's be faithful, Captain, and may the Emperor guide our bolters true. As night fell over Adelon, the rebels prepared for war, and 9 Ultramarines prepared to show a galaxy that had forgotten resistance what happened when warriors who'd never learned surrender decided to fight. The Empire controlled everything, but empires built on fear collapsed when that fear transformed into fury, and the Ultramarines were about to provide the spark that would ignite a galaxy. The Imperial convoy dropped from hyperspace exactly on schedule. 3 transport frigates, escorted by 2 patrol corvettes, their hulls marked with the Empire's stark insignia. Brother Gaius had predicted their arrival with perfect accuracy, his analysis of Imperial logistics proving as reliable as any Ultramarine's tactical doctrine. Targets confirmed, Hera reported from the Ghost's cockpit. Central Transport is broadcasting authorization codes for restricted construction materials. That's our prize. Titus stood in the cargo bay with his brothers, bolters mag-locked and combat knives secured. Through the viewport, the convoy grew larger as the Ghost approached on an intercept vector masked by false transponder codes. Remember the mission parameters, Titus said over Squad Vox. Disable escorts, board the Central Transport, secure the navigation data, withdraw. We're not here to fight, we're here to learn. And if they don't cooperate? Brother Maximus asked, checking his bolter's ammunition counter. Then we remind them what happens when they oppose the Emperor's wrath. The Ghost closed to weapons range. Hera's fingers danced across controls, targeting solutions, painting the escort corvettes with precision, firing ion cannons. 3, 2, 1. Blue energy bolts lanced through space, striking the corvette's shield generators with devastating accuracy. The Imperial ship's systems flickered and died, their crews suddenly adrift without power or communications. The transport frigates began emergency evasion maneuvers, but civilian vessels couldn't outrun a combat-modified freighter. Boarding position achieved, Hera announced. You're up, Ultramarines. The Ghost's docking clamp engaged the Central Transport with metallic thunder, Titus led his squad through the airlock, cutting through the transport's hull with a plasma torch that turned durasteel into molten slag. They breached into a cargo bay filled with massive containers marked with Imperial security seals. "Contact!" Brother Severus called as stormtroopers appeared at the bay's far entrance, blasters raised. The firefight was brief and brutal. Bolter fire shredded Imperial armor, mass reactive rounds detonating inside targets with catastrophic effect. Within seconds, the stormtrooper squad was eliminated, and the Ultramarines advanced toward the bridge. They found the transport's captain, a middle-aged human in Imperial officer's uniform, attempting to purge the navigation computer. Brother Gaius stopped him with a bolt pistol aimed at his head. "Step away from the console," Gaius commanded. The captain's hands trembled as he complied. "You're the Coruscant warriors, the ones who wounded Lord Vader. Do you have any idea what the Empire will do to you?" "We know exactly what they'll do," Titus replied, removing his helmet to reveal his scarred, patrician features. "Which is why we're going to ensure they never get the chance. Your navigation data, where is this shipment destined? I can't tell you that. It's classified above my security level. I just follow coordinates provided by..." Gaius interrupted by pulling the navigation data directly from the ship's computer, his interface cable connecting to the Imperial systems. Scarif system, outer rim. Coordinates match a planetary shield gate and surface facilities. He looked at Titus with grim recognition. "Captain, this is it. Project Stardust's construction site." Titus studied the data with cold assessment. Scarif was heavily fortified orbital shield gate, garrison fleet, surface installations protected by specialized security. Infiltrating such a facility would require resources they didn't possess. But they didn't need to infiltrate. They just needed to confirm what was being built, then bring that intelligence back to the rebellion. Sometimes reconnaissance was more valuable than direct action. "Set course for Atelon," Titus ordered Hera over comms. "We've got what we came for." They left the transport crew alive, but disabled a calculated mercy that would spread word of the Ultramarines' honor even in combat. As the Ghost jumped to hyperspace, Titus gathered his brothers in the common area. "We've found the weapon's location," Titus announced. "Now we need to determine what exactly Stardust is and how to destroy it. That requires more intelligence than we currently possess." "We could launch a reconnaissance mission," Brother Severus suggested. "Infiltrate Scarif's planetary systems, gather technical specifications." "Too risky without proper support," Titus countered. "We need..." "Wait," Ahsoka interrupted, moving to the holographic display where Gaius had projected the Scarif data. Her expression shifted from confusion to horror. "Those energy calculations, that construction scale. Emperor's Mercy. They're building a battle station, a mobile weapons platform capable of planetary annihilation. A planet killer," Brother Decimus said grimly. "The Imperium has similar weapons, exterminatus protocols authorized under extreme circumstances. If Palpatine completes this, then he won't need to occupy rebellious worlds," Ahsoka finished. "He'll simply destroy them as examples, rule through absolute terror." The implications settled like lead across the crew. A weapon that could destroy planets would make conventional resistance meaningless. The Empire could eliminate any system that opposed them, leaving only ash and fear. "Then we destroy it," Titus decided. "Before it becomes operational. The Codex teaches that threats must be eliminated before they reach full strength." "How?" Hera asked, disbelief coloring her voice. "Even if we gathered every rebel fighter in the galaxy, we couldn't breach Scarif's defenses. You're talking about assaulting a facility with orbital shields, fleet protection, and probably Lord Vader himself once they realize we know about it." "Then we don't assault directly," Titus replied, his tactical mind racing through possibilities. "We find another way. Every weapon has vulnerabilities. Every fortress has weaknesses. We identify Stardusts and we exploit them. That could take months, Sato protested over the comms as the ghost approached Atelon. Years, even. We don't have that kind of time. Then we make time, Titus said simply. We gather intelligence, we plan meticulously, and when we strike with such overwhelming precision that the Empire never recovers. The ghost landed at the rebel base to find it transformed. In the weeks since their initial arrival, hundreds more volunteers had joined, drawn by stories of the Coruscant warriors and the hope they represented. Prefabricated structures had expanded into a proper command center. Ships arrived daily with supplies and information. The rebellion was growing. Slowly, painfully, but growing. Titus stood before the assembled rebel leadership, Sato, Hera, and representatives from a dozen resistance cells across the outer rim. Behind him, his 8 brothers stood at attention, their cobalt blue armor gleaming under Atelon's sun. We came to this galaxy by accident, Titus began, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. We didn't ask to be here, didn't choose to involve ourselves in your conflict. But the moment we witnessed Order 66, the moment we saw children being executed for political convenience, the moment we faced Darth Vader and learned what Palpatine truly represents, that moment, we had no choice. Because the Codex Astartes demands that we stand against tyranny, regardless of where we find it. He activated the holographic display, showing Scarif's coordinates and the partial data on Project Stardust. The Empire is building a weapon capable of destroying planets. Once operational, resistance becomes meaningless. Palpatine will rule through absolute terror. But we have something the Empire doesn't expect. We have knowledge of this weapon before its completion. We have warriors trained in tactics the Empire has never encountered, and we have something more valuable than any weapon. Titus looked across the assembled rebels, farmers and soldiers, smugglers and idealists, humans and aliens, all united by one common purpose. We have hope. The Empire believes it's invincible, believes that fear is enough to control a galaxy, but hope is stronger than fear. Faith is stronger than tyranny. And 9 Space Marines, standing alongside thousands of rebels, is stronger than any Death Star the Empire can build. The rebels erupted in cheers. For the first time since Palpatine's coup, they saw not just survival, but possibility. Not just resistance, but victory. As the celebration continued, Brother Severus approached Titus quietly. Inspiring speech, Captain, but you know the odds. Even with this intelligence, even with the rebellion growing, we're still facing impossible circumstances. I know, Titus acknowledged, but the Codex teaches that faith moves mountains, and right now, this galaxy needs faith more than tactical certainty. Ahsoka joined them, the 3 younglings trailing behind. The children looked different now, still traumatized, still grieving, but also determined. They'd been training with Ezra, learning to control their Force abilities, preparing to become something more than victims. Thank you, Ahsoka said simply. For everything. You didn't just save our lives on Coruscant. You gave us purpose. Gave this galaxy a chance to fight back. We did what the Codex demanded, Titus replied. Nothing more. No, Ahsoka corrected gently. You did something extraordinary. You chose compassion over tactics, principle over survival. That's not just following orders, that's leadership. Real leadership. Titus had no response to that. He'd spent 2 centuries following orders, executing missions, serving the Imperium's greater purpose. But here, in this galaxy, he'd made choices based on conscience rather than command. And those choices had sparked something neither the Empire nor his own tactical projections could have predicted. A rebellion built not on strategy or resources, but on the simple conviction that tyranny must be opposed. As Atelon's sun set, painting the rebel base in shades of amber and crimson, 9 Ultramarines stood watch over a galaxy that had become their responsibility. They were far from home, cut off from the Imperium, facing impossible odds against an enemy with infinite resources. But they were Space Marines, warriors who'd never learned to surrender, defenders who stood against darkness regardless of cost. The Empire controlled everything, but the Ultramarines had something Palpatine could never understand: absolute faith that some principles were worth dying for. And in a galaxy drowning in fear, that faith had become the spark of rebellion. The war had just begun. Project Stardust would be destroyed. Palpatine would learn that tyranny had limits, and the legend of the 9 warriors in cobalt blue armor would spread across every system, every world, every heart that still dared to hope. For the Emperor, for Ultramar, for a galaxy that deserved better than darkness. May the Force be with them, and may Roboute Guilliman's wisdom guide their path. In the months that followed, the Ultramarines became legends across the galaxy. Brother Sergeant Titus and his 8 warriors led raids that crippled Imperial supply lines, trained rebel cells in tactics the Empire had never encountered, and proved repeatedly that Palpatine's forces could be beaten. The rebellion grew from hundreds to thousands, from scattered cells to coordinated resistance. Project Stardust, the Death Star, was eventually destroyed, though not by the Ultramarines alone. When the moment came, it was rebel pilots who delivered the killing blow, inspired by the warriors who'd shown them that impossible odds were merely challenges waiting to be overcome. Darth Vader hunted them relentlessly, their confrontations becoming the stuff of legend. Neither side could claim total victory, the Sith Lord's dark side power balanced against Astartes' discipline and firepower. But each encounter proved that even fallen chosen ones could bleed. The younglings grew into Jedi Knights, trained by Ahsoka and protected by Ultramarines, who'd become more than just warriors. They'd become guardians of a new order built on principles worth defending. As for Brother Sergeant Titus and his squad, they never found a way home. The warp remained impossibly distant, the Imperium beyond reach. But perhaps that was the Emperor's true will, that sometimes faith demanded you stand not where you wanted to be, but where you were needed most. The Codex Astartes had one final teaching, inscribed by Guilliman in his own hand. A Space Marine's duty ends only in death. Until that moment we stand, we fight, we protect. Wherever humanity needs us, there we shall be. And in a galaxy far, far away, 9 Ultramarines stood watch, proving that hope was stronger than any empire, and that faith could move not just mountains, but entire galaxies. Is greater than is greater, than is greater than. May the Force be with you. More stories await.